Hello and welcome back to Old Frames Gaming for the last of the rounds recorded at our most recent meetup at Dragon's Den for Premodern. This round is going to feature Panda on Burn with a couple of interesting and unique card choices versus Chris on a blue-green madness list. Let's jump into the deck list. Alright, and here we have Panda's Burn list that she played on the night. You'll notice in the main deck that she is playing a couple of Viashino Sandstalkers. From what I understand, this selection was made based off the local meta in Evansville, as Panda drove an hour and a half just to join us on the night. I'm told that this choice is based on goblins in the meta, I believe, if I recall correctly, but if she catches this video, she can correct me in the comments. There's some earthquakes in the sideboard up here, which is something we don't always see. Overload, presumably for the Stifle Knot matchups to improve that somewhat. The rest of the main deck is pretty stock. We've got some Jackal Pups, Ball Lightning, Sulfuric Vortex as a 4 of, which I think is a pretty pro move. And then the usual suspects in Incinerate, Fire Blast, Lightning Bolt, Seal of Fire, and Lavamancers. Let's take a look at Chris's deck. Alright, so here we have Chris's Blue-Green Madness list that he played on the night. He is a big fan of this deck, and we've seen it on camera before. This is filled with the usual, mostly usual at least, choices for this style of deck. It's a lot of fun, creates a lot of tempo, and can just be an absolute blast to play. So, with that said, let's take a look at some gameplay. Alright, and we are joining these players in round 3, game 1. As we tune in here, these two players are finishing their shuffling up and presenting to cut. Panda is going to be on the left-hand side of your screen, and Chris will be on the right. And as we take a look here, these players are examining their initial 7 to see if it's going to be suitable enough to continue. Well, I see lands and spells. That seems like it might be a good sign. It looks like Chris is going to lead off here. He's going to start us off on an island and pass the turn on over to Panda. Panda's going to take a draw. We're going to find a mountain, and we're going to open up on Mog Fanatic, an all-star in the pre-modern world. Panda passes back over to Chris. He finds a forest and lands it. And he's going to pass the turn back. So Panda's going to open up in turn 2 by sending Mog Fanatic on into the red zone and bashing Chris for 1, sending him on down to 19. She manages to find a Bloodstained Mire. And now we're going to play our Seal of Fire, which is going to meet a Mana Leak. Passing the turn back, Chris takes his draw. Looks like he's found another island. Looks like he's content with that turn, and he passes on back over to Panda. So she takes a draw, finds a Wooded Foothills. We're going to go ahead and crack that, presumably to get another mountain. Alright, so now we've got some fodder for that Grim Lavamancer if it ever shows up. We're also going to go ahead and shortcut here a little bit and crack that Bloodstained Mire and find a third mountain. I have to tell you, Burn is probably one of my more favorite decks to play in this format. It's fast, it's furious, it's a lot of fun. There's some interesting cards that you can sub in and out. Quantities on certain cards can make all the difference in the world. Just an absolute blast to play. Same goes for Madness. I've never played it, but I've watched the deck here and there. And it seems like it's just great to play. So Panda shuffling up here after finding those lands. We're going to present the cut here shortly. Chris is content with the randomization of the deck. And Panda looks like she's found a ball lightning. So here we're coming across for 7. Chris doesn't have an answer, so he's going to go on down to 12. And that ball lightning is going to go straight to the graveyard. And Panda passes the turn to Chris. So Chris has got to find some way to get some action going here, or it's not going to last long. Looks like he's found a Yavimaya Coast. So our colors are fixed. I believe that is a careful study that he has played. So we're going to draw a couple cards and discard a couple cards. So that would be a... Arrogant Worm has hit the graveyard, but we're going to pay our madness cost here and get that 4/4 into play and pass the turn back over. So Panda's going to untap, take a look at a fresh card off the top. We find a Wooded Foothills, which we're going to crack and go find another mountain. We present the cut. Chris is content again with the randomization. So all 4 red mana here. That's 3 damage for a lightning bolt. Chris goes to 9. Now 8 with the sack of the Mog Fanatic. 2 for a Fire Blast, sacking 2 mountains, paying the alternate cost there. And 2 more for another Fire Blast. And Chris dies in a fiery flurry of spells in game 1. So we're going to give these players an opportunity to shuffle up and sideboard, and then we'll meet them in game 2. And here we are starting off in game 2, and Chris is going to be on the play. Panda has taken a mulligan down to 6 cards, and Chris is going to open up on an island. So it looks like the 6 was a better starting hand than the initial 7. We're going to open up on Bloodstained Mire, and we're going to sacrifice that to go find a mountain to open up the floodgates. No other plays, so we go ahead and pass the turn back over to Chris. He's going to find a second island. Shout out to Panda for taking care of our life totals there, because it's with the glare it was a little bit difficult to read for the dice. But that's okay. So Chris opens up on an Aquamoeba, which is going to give him a discard outlet to play a lot of those madness cards like Roar the Worm and Arrogant Worm, Masking Root Walla. Chris cuts and then passes the turn back over to Panda. So we're going to get a fresh look at a new card here shortly. You can see that Sandstalker in her hand there. I thought that was an interesting card. I've always liked that card. I thought it was cool. I remember when it was brand new. Just to kind of give a glimpse of my age here. So Panda finds a Wooded Foothills. We're going to go ahead and crack that, go to 18 and find a second mountain. Two mana. And that looks like an Incinerate. So Panda pointed that one at Chris's face. So he's going to go to 17. While she's shuffling up, she's going to pass the turn back on over to Chris. He's going to take a look at one off the top. Looks like he's got a handful of counter spells. Alright, we're going to go ahead and discard to that Aquamoeba. Play that Basking Root Walla for its 0 madness cost. And swing in for 4. Or 3, rather. 3. Chris passes the turn. Panda gets a fresh look. We find a third island, which can be quite dangerous. That opens up Sulfuric Vortex, Ball Lightning, and the Sandstalker in this deck. So we're gonna go ahead and play that Sandstalker. That has haste. It is a 4/2 and returns to your hand at the end of the turn, so long as it's not dead, that is. Chris is going to go ahead and destroy that thing with a blue Elemental Blast. I don't blame him. Repeatable sources of damage are problematic for him. So Panda passes the turn. Chris finds what appears to be another Basking Root Walla. He's going to go ahead and discard to that Aquamoeba again. And we're going to swing in for, I believe, 4 this time. Yep. Sending Panda on down to 11. Chris passes the turn. So Panda finds another fetch land here. She's going to go ahead and play that. We're going to attempt to play another Viashino Sandstalker. Chris has a Mana Leak to answer it. So it looks like Chris may be finding all the answers this game. He's running hot so far. Panda finds another mountain off that wooded foothills and plays a Jackal Pup. It's a 2/1 for 1 red. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much to its controller. Maybe somebody can help me out in the comments. I know that this is a newer version of this card, and I'm not familiar with what set it was released in. So if you know, hop on in the comments and let us know. So Panda passes the turn back over to Chris. He's going to untap. Looks like he's hanging on to that Daze for right now. And what appears to be a Snap in his hand, I believe. So Chris sends the team into the red zone. So Panda's got some decisions to make here. Are we going to sacrifice that Jackal Pup and throw it in front of something? Now we're going to discard a Wild Mongol to the Aquamoeba. I believe that's going to be a total of 5 damage, sending Panda to 5. So we've got to find some kind of way to climb out of this hole. We've got 4 mana available to us and a Jackal Pup that seemingly can attack into a board that is not going to be able to answer it. So Chris is going to take the 2 off the attack and go down to 15. And he is going to untap here after Panda ends the turn. We've found a forest. Chris sends the team again. That's 5 total damage. Does she have a way to answer this? We're going to incinerate it. Alright. So it looks like 2 is going to come across. Guess these 2 players are discussing a couple of procedural things here. Chris is going to pump the Root Walla. That's going to give it, I believe, +2/+2 or +2/+0. So it's going to be a total of 3 damage. 4 damage, rather. Not quite sure how that happened, but either way, looks like it was 4 damage. It looks like Panda is throwing in the towel here. She doesn't have enough answers to get over this seemingly insurmountable amount of obstacles. All right, we'll give these players another opportunity to sideboard, and we'll join them in game 3. And here we have game 3 of round 3. As we join in here, these players are drawing their initial 7. Panda will be on the play in this game as Chris won in game 2. So just taking a look at opening hands here and seeing if we want to move forward. Those look like lands and spells. If I had to guess, I think we're going to be keeping here. Alright, Panda's going to open up on a mountain. And we find a Mog Fanatic, an all-star of Premodern, yet again. Passing the turn over to Chris, he lands an island for the turn and passes back. So Panda is going to play another Mog Fanatic. 2 for 2, everybody. There comes that Wooded Foothills. We're going to go ahead and crack that, go to 19, and find another mountain. Looks like we've got one more play. That'd be a Seal of Fire. Alright, so that's a shock on a stick for one turn at least. Unless Chris wants to play a Daze or something on this. I know there's been discussion over the last 2 or 3 years about Bauble Burn, the decks that play Urza's Bauble. My preference has moved over to playing Seal of Fire because it's just one more source of damage over trying to play the virtual 56 cards. Those of you out there watching, if you play this deck or just a fan of it, why don't you let us know what your thoughts are on playing Seal of Fire versus Bauble. That seems to be the most common substitution I see. I'd be curious to know what the community thinks about it. So Panda's shuffling up here after that Wooded Foothills. We're going to present the cut. Chris is satisfied that it's random enough. So Chris is taking his turn during all that shuffling. He's found an island and he passes the turn back to Panda. We're going to come into the red zone for 2, sending Chris to 17. We find a Barbarian Ring. And we're going to give the turn back over to Chris. So he's going to draw. We find a Yavimaya Coast, so we're at least on green now. Looks like he's got one Wild Mongrel in his hand at least. This appears to be coming in end of turn. Panda attempting to get 3 more damage in there. Chris is going to go ahead and take it and go down to 14. Alright, so Panda's going to untap here and take a look at a new one off the top. We're going to come crashing back into the red zone for 2 here. Chris is going to answer with a frantic search. So we're going to draw some cards, discard some cards, and untap some lands. Chris looking for an answer here. Alright, so he's discarded it appears to be an Arrogant Worm and a Wild Mongrel. So that trigger's going to go on the stack, which is kind of a weird thing. And he's going to go ahead and put that Arrogant Worm into play. So now he's got a 4/4 Trampler on his side, which he can use to block one of these 2 Mog Fanatics. Looks like Panda's going to opt to just get that one on out of the way and deal 1 straight to the face. And then the other one's going to crack on in for 1. 2 more mana for an Incinerate. Chris is going to go down to 8. He's at a virtual 6 with that Seal of Fire. So Chris takes a fresh draw and looks it over. He's found another Yavimaya Coast, which those are great for fixing, but in this situation, it's going to be kind of problematic, taking all that damage just to generate some green, because he is under the gun here. Alright, so blue and 1. We found an Aquamoeba, so that's going to give us a discard outlet for any future Madness things, the Masking Root Wallows, or other Arrogant Worms that we might find. He passes the turn back over. So Panda takes a draw. We're going to attempt to land a Grim Lavamancer, which is met with Mana Leak. So that's going to get countered. Panda passes the turn. No good attacks here. Facing down a 4/4 and an Aquamoeba. Chris finds a 5th land. He's cracking on in with the team. And now he's going to discard another Arrogant Worm to the Aquamoeba. And with the Madness trigger on the stack, going to go ahead and play that. So this game appears to be turning around for Chris. 12-7 on the life totals here, and he passes the turn back to Panda. She's going to take a look at a new one. Tapping 3, taking 1 damage off that Barbarian Ring. Here comes Sandstalker, which is met with Daze. So that Sandstalker's not going to make it. I guess there was a question there about what mana we were adding. But Chris did have the island open, so we can use it at Yavimaya Coast without inflicting any damage to ourselves. Panda passes the turn. Chris untaps here. The door may very well be closing on Panda. Chris at a virtual 5 still, so just a couple burn spells. We'll get there. So Panda's going to put Mog Fanatic in front of one of those Arrogant Worms. It's going to trample in for 3 anyway. Plus the 4 on the others, so that's going to send Panda down to 5. Now it looks like Chris may have the upper hand. He's going to pass the turn. She's going to take a look at the top card here. Did we find an answer? Did we find a way to get there? We just need 4 damage worth of spells. Or I'm sorry, 5. Plus that Seal of Fire will get there. Alright, so we're going to go to 4. Casting Ball Lightning. Chris has Mana Leak for the answer. And that is likely going to do it here, everybody. Great game between these two players. Thank you all for tuning in. For everybody who's returning, thank you for watching and supporting the channel. For anyone who's new, I appreciate you stopping by. If you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing to improve our visibility and get it out there. I just like making these videos. Even though I'm a novice, I still enjoy doing it. And we will see you next time. For those of you who may be interested, on July 12th at 11 a.m. Central Time in Evansville, Indiana, we're going to be holding the Eternal Open. This is going to be a pre-modern event for charity. We would encourage all those who are able to attend to come. There will be a link in the description for details to that tournament, including the charity selected, pricing for the event, as well as prize structure. There is a cap, so space is limited, but do please check it out. The group up there, including Javier Lugo, has put a lot of work into this, and we're very thankful that we're able to participate in events like this and have the money go to a good cause. So everybody, please check that out. Thank you again for tuning in.